Good evening, everyone. This time I'd like to call the January Macon County Board of Commission meeting to order. Let's start off with announcements. Ms. Tammy?
I do not have any.
Mr. Cape?
Chairman Young, I actually have a couple. First of all, I want to remind the board of the joint town and towns and county meeting, which is with the town of Franklin, town of Highlands. It'll be Thursday, February the 13th at the Old Edwards Inn. Meal will be served at 6, meeting is at 7. We do have a regular meeting that week on that Tuesday, so I think it'd be prudent for us just to, what's the word I'm looking for, Tammy? Continue the meeting from Tuesday until Thursday for that meeting, but that is February the 13th in Highlands. So that's the first announcement. Second announcement, I know you all have had some questions about the debris in the waterway, particularly from Helene out on the Coalsage River next to the MVI in that area out through there, among others. And I just wanted to let you know that Doug Johnson with Soil and Water Conservation is actually working on a project for some funding for that. So we'll know more about that maybe next month, but that's in the process. So that'll be coming up very shortly to take care of that. We actually have made some changes. This is another announcement. We made some changes at code enforcement. We've taken 2 positions. Of course, Bobby Bishop retired. He was over code enforcement. We had a planning director. We actually have combined those positions and made one position for a planning and permitting and development director, and we have hired Mr. Joe Allen, who is no stranger to you all. So we want to welcome him back to Macon County in that role. And adding on to that, I'd obviously, Mr. Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing on the agenda tonight about the watershed issues or floodplain issues. And I think at this point that's going to be tabled indefinitely pending some further information from some mapping, FEMA mapping projects that are in the works. I think that's also prudent that we allow Mr. Allen time to get his feet under him and get situated there. So I think the timing's good with that. Also want to announce the planning board has asked that we talked about the Lake Emery Dam, and they basically have referred that back to us, that's going to take some technical expertise. Of course, that'll involve Mr. Allen somewhere down the road as well, but that's something we may need to take up in our budget discussions coming up, because that's probably something, if we entertain that, we'll probably have to acquire the services for somebody for that. And then the last announcement I have in front of you there, there's a list of committee and liaison assignments that the chairman has assigned for folks for the upcoming year. And Mr. Chairman, you want me to read over those for the public, or you want me to do that?
Please read into the record book. Yes, sir.
So the new assignments for advisory boards and committees for the upcoming year are as follows. Airport Authority is Commissioner Shields. Community Funding Pool is Commissioners Young and Breeden. Cooperative Extension is Commissioner Young. County Managed Properties, and that's a new one for us. That has to do with places like Cowley School, Pine Grove School, facilities that we're involved with that we need some liaison interaction with. That will be Commissioners Breeden and Sherrill. Dangerous Dog Board is Commissioner Shields. Department on Aging Advisory Board and Human Home and Community Care Block Grant is Commissioner Antoine. Economic Development Commission, Commissioners Breeden and Sherrill. Fire and Rescue, Commissioner Sherrill. Friends of the Greenway, Commissioner Shields. Health Board, Commissioners Sherrill and Young. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, Commissioner Antoine. Jury Commission, we don't have anybody at this time on there. Law Enforcement Commissioners Antoine and Breeden. LBJ Job Corps, Commissioner Shields. Library Board, Commissioners Antoine and Breeden. Macon Citizens Abilities Incorporated, Commissioner Sherrill. Macon Program for Progress, Commissioners Antoine and Shields. Planning Board, Commissioner Sherrill. Recreation Committee, Commissioners Sherrill and Young. Region A and Rural Transportation Advisory Committee, Commissioner Breeden. The School System, Commissioners Young and Shields. Social Services Board, Commissioner Antoine. Solid Waste, Commissioner Young. TDC, Franklin and Nantahala, Commissioners Shields and Breeden. And TDC Highlands, Commissioner Sherrill. Town of Franklin representative will be Commissioner Antoine. Transit Advisory Board, Commissioner Sherrill, and the VIA organization, Commissioner Shields. So, with that being said, that's all the announcements I have.
Mr. Cabe, that might be a record for announcements.
Thank you.
Moving around, Mr. Reed and Antoine.
We need to have this voted on, motion or anything.
Mr. Attorney, would you like to,
Sure. I do.
at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the advisory boards and committees be accepted as presented.
Hear a motion, hear a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your right arm and saying aye. Aye. No opposed, please reflect 5-0, Ms. Tammy.
Thank you.
All right. Any more announcements down this way? Mr. Sherrill, legal? Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Shields for the Pledge of Allegiance, and before that, let's have a moment of silence.
Stand, please stand. During this moment of silence, if you'll just remember, a lot of the people in our United States are going through some tough times right now, especially on the East Coast and the West Coast. And those people will need our prayers, and as we work with them mentally, and remember that we're all brothers and sisters together. And you can bow your heads for a minute or two. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. All right, Ms. Tammy, do you have a sign-up sheet for, I'm sorry, how about any public hearings? No? All right, moving on to public comment. Betsy Baste.
Good evening, gentlemen. I get to be first for 2025. That's awesome. Welcome. Nice to see you up here.
Before you get too far started, I'm sorry, would you just read your, or,
I'm Betsy Baste, and I live in
Thank you.
Otto, North Carolina,
thank you, ma'am.
Franklin.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's quite all right. I'm getting 2 more seconds back now.
Granted.
So I have a lot to say, so I'm gonna just hit bullet points because it's at a disadvantage that we get to say these things without knowing where the meeting's going with those things. So this is just coming at you from the heart. I want to talk for a second about money and taxes. Because we pay our taxes, property owners here, and we pay a variety of different taxes. And when we pay those taxes, those come under your trust. And you create the budgets that say how those taxes get spent, what services are happening for us, the people that we entrust our money to. And I am just wanted to remind you for this fresh start of the year that in the old days when a storm was coming and your kid could walk to the store for groceries, you'd give your kid some money and you'd go buy some bread and milk. The storm's coming, we want to make sure we have plenty of bread and milk. And when that child comes back from the store, we expect bread and milk. We don't expect that kid to pocket the money and save it for later. We expect that child to spend the money in what we asked them to spend it for. And I want to remind you that because I've been looking, I don't know anything about governmental economics really, it's a complicated issue, but I do know that we entrust you to spend the money we give you. And of course we expect you to trust it, to spend it wisely. However, I see a lot of surplus when I see these budget things and I think, why are you not spending my money that I asked you to spend? I gave it to you in good faith that you would spend that money for the things we need. And we need these things, and that's what we elect you for. So I want to remind you of that. I want to remind you that, for instance, animal control. That's in a budget, under the health department. And we expect you to help us out with that, because neighbor to neighbor, yeah, we try and do that first, and sometimes that's not always possible. And bad things happen to animals just like they happen to kids. We expect children to be protected in this town. We expect them not to be abused. We expect them to be fed. And if they're not, then we do something about it. Same thing with animals. Last year in 2024, 1,327 animals went through Animal Control Services. That's a lot of animals. We already have a nonprofit that's also working on it, and they work in conjunction. I'm a new volunteer there, so it's kind of an issue that's on my radar, and I see how hard that Animal Control Services works and what they do with very little. And they do a great job. And they're taking care of the citizens of this community by providing a service for animal control. That's kind of logical. So we give you that money to spend it, please spend it. Don't try and make a nonprofit have to have another fundraiser to do animal control. We want you to do that. Reports and presentations, I can't wait to see how that turns out. I understand you don't want to be here till midnight, I get it. But when does the public get to see what's happening? This is the one venue that we have, so I hope that if you do it on another night or something, that it's at nighttime, not so that you don't eliminate all those people who work from being able to be a part of this process. Because, yeah, a lot of gray hair in the room. No offense, everybody back there, me too. But, you know, if you hold meetings during the day when people work, regular people can't go to those things. So I hope that you continue to find a robust way for us to participate in this. And don't take all those reports out. All right, 49 seconds plus 2. Recreational plan and pickleball courts. I was in Rabun County yesterday, and they talked about building pickleball courts after we started the conversation. They're almost done. So just kind of curious about that. Like to see that move forward. I play pickleball, a lot of it. And so do a lot of other people. They already have a lot of courts, and they're building more. Clock tower. I hope that tonight you decide that you are going to spend some money fixing the clock tower, because not only is it the center of town and should look beautiful and should be, you know, it's yours. It's county property. It's not town property, so it's your responsibility to make sure that that's fixed. Enforcement of laws. We've talked about it here in this room several times about how, well, we're just going to weaken some ordinances because we can't enforce them. Please don't do that. Don't even entertain that. Don't say you're not going to enforce something and then not do it. Make sure that it's in place to do their jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Betsy. Scott Based.
She's always hard to follow. I think I need to sign up in front of her next time, because she just does a great job. She didn't use her 2 seconds, so maybe I can get them. I'm here tonight to talk about a couple things. One, the pickleball courts, looks like they're finally coming around. It's awesome. I just think the only thing I saw maybe is we could use maybe some more bleachers for the tennis courts. I thought one of the things that we were going to do with this was the high school would be able to have tournaments. And so parents come to tournaments, they need a place to sit, or people are going to just have to bring chairs, which that could be dangerous with a bunch of chairs and people spreading their, people tend to spread when they put the chair down, you know, so they got their coolers and their chairs and everything. That was the main thing. And then, is there a way we can get the list of liaison postings? Because that was like 1,000 of them, and I remembered 3, and then there was, so I don't know if that can go up on the minutes, or does that get entered into the minutes?
It is on the county website. There's a specific spot on our county website for
Okay.
advisories and
All right,
boards.
so I don't have to write it all down, it'll be
Yeah.
there. Then the only other thing is, she already said something about the clock tower, but I think hopefully going into this year, maybe we can relook at the social districting as well. The whatever they call it, where people drink downtown. Franklin's had it inactive for a while, and maybe the county can open up their property. I think it'd just flow better for events and everything, and we have so many wonderful events. And even without the social districting, people were drinking in town anyway, so this kind of makes it more legitimate, I think, and gives everybody a chance to be within the law. And also, think it'd be less complicated for people who are enjoying that benefit. It's not something I do, but, you know, it's something I see people doing. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Basin. All right. Kerry Keys. Thank you. Please state your address, please, sir.
I'm Kerry Keys. I'm the executive director for the Mountain Retreat and Learning Center in Highlands, North Carolina. If I can, I just wanted to pass out some informational sheets for y'all. I'm here just to talk about a property tax appeal that's before the Macon County Board of Commissioners. We are a nonprofit organization that has been in operation for just over 45 years now. We celebrated our 45th anniversary in November. And last year, we received a gift of property. We received the gift on January 25th of 2024, which was after the deadline for applying for property tax exemption, which was on January 1st of 2024. We filed a late application for property tax exemption, and the state law allows for late applications for property tax exemption if the application is put forward for good cause. I want to, I guess, contend that our good cause is that we didn't receive the property in time to apply for the tax exemption. But I also just wanted to provide some background information for you all since the appeal is before the County Board of Commissioners. There's some information in that sheet about the process that we followed and the steps that we've taken in order to file the exemption application. And I think that that's worth reading through, but just from a high level also, you know, the North Carolina state law has given property tax exemption to nonprofits so that they can pursue their charitable purposes. And I wanted to, besides the steps that are outlined for that process that we followed in that sheet, just talk to you all about nonprofit tax exemption and whether the purpose behind the state law in granting nonprofits tax exemption is best served by denying our application for the tax exemption, or whether the purpose behind nonprofit tax exemption would be better served by approving our application. We do outdoor education work with youth and with adults. Our mission is to help foster an appreciation of the environment here and to help people build stronger connections with their communities and with the congregations and the individuals that come up to our retreat center. And I just wanted to ask you all to help support our mission by granting our application for the property tax exemption. I know that y'all aren't allowed or supposed to ask questions or provide feedback during this public comment session, but I'd be happy to provide additional information if that would be helpful at any time. And also just welcome you all out to our property if you all wanted to learn more about the organization, the work that we're doing. Like I said, we've been in Highlands for just over 45 years. And while not everybody in this room might have known about our work, we're just trying to welcome you all to help support our mission as well. So that's
Real
it.
fast, typically, I mean, there is no real engagement since you came down the mountain.
Yeah.
Mr. Council, is there anything you can provide him? I just hate for him to make a bad trip.
Well, and I've provided it all to him. I've given him the law that says it's not eligible until this year. So he's, well, I won't get into a whole lot of legal argument with him, but he's not eligible. This entity is not eligible for tax exemption until 2025 because they didn't own it on January 1.
Can you put your name and number on there? Sure. There's your pen.
And I appreciate you reaching out to me, and I talked to the county manager, and so I figured instead of me getting involved in it, so we'd just let they explained to me all the details, and so.
Yeah, Chairman Young, we've actually spoken to Mr. Keys by email a couple of times, and we certainly appreciate the service they have. We recognize the organization that's been there a long time. I just think, after talking to council, I think North Carolina law is pretty clear. It has to be a certain, the ownership has to be there on a certain date, and I don't think there's anything we can do. And it has to be the owner of the property on that date that's exempt, I believe is the best way to explain that. So unfortunately, I don't think legally there's anything you can do.
I just hated to sit here and look cold and you turn around and walk out the door, so
But I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but Abby with the tax officers here, they will certainly, I can promise you, they will do everything possible to make sure you're taken care of in this year. It's unfortunate that it happened this way, but they will try and go above and beyond to make sure that you're taken care of next year.
Thank you, Mr. Keys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down, man.
All right. That's all I have signed up for public comment. Additions to the agenda? Anybody? Hearing none, I'd ask for approval of the agenda. I have a
Second.
motion. I have a second by Mr. Antoine. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Raise your right hand. Aye. I vote Ms. Tammy. All right. Moving along, reports, presentations. Mr. Manager,
I don't have any, I don't think.
you have none.
Mr. Chairman.
Old business. Mr. Jack Morgan, update of Highlands School project and project manager representatives from Van Wert Construction.
Gentlemen, we've been working very hard with Van Construction on this project. It's not an easy project, but it's not an impossible project. Van has been very attentive to our needs, and this is Ms. Caitlin Jones, project manager, and I'll just turn this over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Good evening, everyone. My name is Caitlin Jones, project manager for Van Construction. Thank you for having us tonight. Wanted to give you an update on the project so far. As everyone knows, we mobilized this past fall and have been able to progress the project since then. The biggest thing that we've been able to do is get the tank, that existing fuel oil tank remediated that was underneath the new addition of the building. So that's been cleaned, it's been filled with concrete. We have filed our documentation with NCDEQ. They are filing that with their state office, and at that point, we can close that. So that's in process right now. We have installed 78 helical piers for the middle school addition. All of those have been inspected by WSP, who is your third-party inspector. Everything meets design intent and torque, so we're able to move forward with our footings. Our footings are excavated. Before the snow, we were supposed to pour last Friday, but I think we all know the weather we fought there. They are pouring tomorrow at 10 a.m., so very exciting milestone for us to get out of the ground. We do have an additional section of footers that will pour next Monday, but we're continuing to just work around weather and progress there. I know the heat for the school has been a hot topic. We were able to make headway over the holidays and get the new tank pads poured over the holidays. Those tanks are arriving in Asheville this week. They will set next week, and we're looking at making that swap over the weekend of the 25th. So by the end of the month, all the temp heat will be removed from the building, and we should be back to the boilers. For upcoming milestones, we do have a vapor intrusion mitigation system, and that needs to go underneath our slab in relation to that tank that we had to remediate. So that's going to be installed the last week of the month. After that, we can finally come in and pour our slab and begin to go vertical. So our mason will be mobilizing at the end of the month. We have steel starting in February. So come February, we'll be vertical, and we'll see progress there. We also will be getting our renovation work in the middle school in February. So into February, we'll start on the second floor and beginning that work. I think as y'all are aware, we're working very closely with Macon County, with WSP, who is your third-party inspector, and the design team as we're hitting any issues, problems, questions, to make sure that your documents are being met and that we're installing to meet code and to meet the design intent. And we've been working really well together as a team. And lastly, in regards to our schedule and budget, we are tracking on schedule. We have been fighting weather, but we are on schedule. In terms of budget, we are tracking on budget, and the allowances, we are coming in under allowances or planning on meeting those allowances. That's all I had. Any questions?
You have that in script?
A little bit, notes. I don't often get to talk to a board like this.
I appreciate that. There was a lot of good information. I just want to make sure that our county manager had access to it.
Actually, Mr. Shields, we actually meet with Caitlin. We actually met with her today with a contractor meeting. We meet twice a month, and then, of course, she has the trades meeting. So they keep us apprised of that. We do a site walk around, make sure any questions, we deal with those. Been very pleased from my perspective on what we've seen happen in the last 2 weeks in spite of the weather. So we've been very pleased with that. And one of the things I'd just like to mention, what our intent was to bring Vinoy in 1 month. We'll bring Carol Daniel in the next month, and basically keep these folks on about a once a quarter cycle to come give you the update. Obviously, we can do that more if you like that, but I think that's pertinent to keep you up to speed so y'all know exactly what's going on with these projects. Highlands is a little quicker. Obviously, we've got a very tight deadline to pull that off. If you want more than that, we can obviously speed those up, but that's kind of our intent unless something changes.
As long as y'all ask the questions and we're asked the questions.
You've had your hands full with this weather.
We definitely have, but as we discussed today, oftentimes in construction, you have to have a plan A, plan B, plan C, so we're always trying to work around it.
All right.
It's not a signal for you to sit down, that's just his signal right there.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
I think you did a good job.
Thank you all for your time, I appreciate it.
All right. Item B, old business. Approval of resolution accepting bid and authorizing sale of surplus property at 88 No Name Road, Franklin. Mr. Attorney.
All right, so last month, there was an offer to purchase the 2 lots in Cartuga J Campground. This is, one of those lots has an extremely dilapidated structure on it that needs to be raised. We've received previous offers on that with some interest, but the intent was at that point to try to rehabilitate those structures on further review. It didn't look like that was possible, so last month the board agreed to authorize the upset bid process of sale of surplus property for those 2 lots. No upsets or bids were filed. That sale was made subject to the obligation to raise that structure within the next 6 months upon receipt of the deed. And so that's probably what scared people off, but because it will incur some substantial expense to remove that structure. So now it comes back in front of the board to actually accept that bid. So the first time you do is you authorize the sale, then it goes through the upset bid process. You now have the right to either accept that, find that as an offer and proceed with the transaction, or you have the right to reject it. And that's the way all these upset bid process, that's the way the upset bid process works for surplus property. So now you actually have to decide if you're going to accept that offer, and that being the last and highest bid offer of the $1,000 with the obligation to raise that building within 6 months.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the man. Any questions, discussion?
Does that meet all the requirements that we've done with surplus property before, regarding tax value at that time?
Well, okay, so generally the policy of the board is that you won't entertain an offer unless it's for tax value, and it's just a general policy for whatever reasons you all decide, you can decide to take less. This is less than the property tax value because, well, it's going to cost more than the tax value to take it down. And you have the discretion to do that with every property. I mean, that's just kind of a general rule of thumb that you all have followed, but you're not bound by it at all. It's not like it's a written policy that you have to follow.
In layman's terms, there was a building that would cost us about $20,000 to demolish. Property assessed value is less than that, and I feel like instead of the county incurring the cost, we sold it.
And it's also a liability to the
Liability.
county, so.
This time, I would say yes, to
I'd like to make a motion,
approve.
approval of the resolution accepting the bid and authorizing the sale of the surplus property, tax partial, numbers there. Make a motion to accept it.
Hear a motion?
$1,000.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Breeden. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right arm and signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Tammy, 5-0. All right, Mr. Attorney, item C, consideration of surplus property at 651 East Main Street.
Okay, so this is the old Gulf Station. We've received some interest on this in the past, and so the current offer is for $50,000. That is, again, just for the purpose of authorizing the upset bid process. You can reject that with the belief, I mean, in the event that that's substantially too low for what you believe that property's worth, and I think most people in the county would actually buy it for that price. The question is whether you want to start the bidding at that price now or wait until you get a little higher offer. And the reason you might consider waiting is when the property is sold at the courthouse steps, their upset bid period starts right then, and you just go to the clerk's office and you file it every 10 days, and it keeps revolving until there's no upset bids. In this type of sale, it has to be published in the newspaper. So once we get an offer back, then if you publish it and somebody makes an upset bid, then it's going to probably be another month before we know what the highest one. Now, we can keep that revolving, but every time we revolve that, we have to actually publish it in the newspaper. So there is a cost involved, and it will take longer to get to a threshold that you might all be willing to accept in the event that $50,000 is not. So in other words, if you can go ahead and start this upset bid process with the premise that the opening bid is $50,000. If nobody else bids on it and it comes back, you have the right still to reject it, you have the right to accept it, or you can let the process run its course and see what the ultimate is, or you can reject it and suggest that it needs to be more. So again, it's totally the board's discretion on how you want to handle that, if at all.
What's the tax value of that property?
It's very close to 200,000, I believe, is the figure. Yeah, just a little under 200,000.
We had an offer some time ago, much greater than that, and we refused that offer. So.
Do you remember what that last offer was?
Well, I know what the last offer was, but it didn't materialize. But the one before that was, I think there was going to be a bakery or something there, and we rejected it. But it was well over 120,000.
All right. Anybody else?
I mean, I can't see approving this if we rejected one that was for a whole lot more.
We just
Well-
wouldn't do it, make a motion for another bid.
Well, no, I think at this time, if there's no action to be taken, I think we let it die for lack of action. And, Mr. Counsel, I feel like we've kind of got a precedent set where we need to be around assessed value. If we're taxing the people at a certain rate, I feel like that needs to be at least a starting point, unless there are, inclusions. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
All right, we're gonna move along. So Tammy, just for the record, no action taken.
Thank you.
Item D, discussion concerning animal services. Mr. Manager Cable.
Mr. Chairman, one of the topics that was brought up at the last meeting, we talked about animal services and the shelter operations, and could that be facilitated by another outside agency, by contract or some other method? So basically what I was looking for tonight, and there is, obviously there's some legal issues that we would have to deal with. It is possible, but there's some things we'd have to go through and develop a plan and see if there's even any interested parties that would work for you. So basically what I would like tonight, if you want to pursue that further, I don't necessarily know that I need a vote, but a general consensus from the board that would direct me to explore that option a little further, and I'll have to involve council, of course, to make sure legally what we can and can't do, and then come back to you in the future with some kind of a report on whether or not we think that's possible and what your options might be, if you even want to pursue that option.
as the liaison to Dangerous Dog Board.
We're having a hard time hearing, guys. Come
Okay.
on. Thank you.
There you go. There you go. I move towards it too. Being a liaison on the Dangerous Dog Board, do I need to have any kind of role in this for the animal shelter? Because sometimes that runs into a legal thing when you have a situation where a dog is dangerous or you have a court piece there that's,
Absolutely, Commissioner Shields. If you want to, I mean, obviously, I'll take a vote by the board to be just as well with me. If you want to make a motion that I pursue that further, then obviously that would be a good place for us to start. And that's not to say that that's the direction we're going to go. That just directs me to explore what options are out there and see if it's a feasible option for you to look at in the future.
So it sounds like this is kind of a discovery engagement where you and our attorney are going to consult both sides, maybe some public,
That's
and
correct.
get back to us with some facts.
That's correct.
sounds good.
Do you want a consensus or a motion?
I'm good with the consensus.
Yep.
All right.
All right, Amy, I believe that's 5-0 consensus. Item E, update on recruitment of county manager. Mrs. Keiser.
So I was asked to give an update on the recruitment for the county manager, the permanent position. So to date, we have received 6 applications. 3 of those would meet the requirements as in the job posting, and I handed out beforehand a copy of the job posting that's been out there. We have posted the position with NC Works on our social media platforms, Indeed, some other job posting sites. We've got the 6 applications, 3 of which are qualified. They have all been given a letter saying and acknowledging receipt of their application, and that we've currently appointed an interim until June 30th, so that they probably will not hear from us until the beginning of the fiscal year.
Well, gentlemen, I asked Ms. Tammy for an update. I feel like it's something that we need to keep in our sights. Any questions? Mr. Attorney, is there any time frame that we need to, should we start interviews with applications and with applicants, or should we kind of
I think that's your
phase
call.
this out?
That's your call.
Gentlemen, we have 6 applications and 3 qualified. Do you want to wait for more, or you want to?
Have we set a deadline on when we want to stop taking applications?
I feel like that's kind of the discussion we need to have, and that's what we're doing right now.
Mr. Campbell, you one of the 6?
Well, that puts me on the spot, Commissioner Shields.
Well, I hope you are down the road.
Yes, I'm one of the 6.
You're one of the 6, okay.
So if he is one of the 6 and we decided we did not want to go further and we wanted to hire him, do we have to?
Yes.
Have to
So,
interview people?
well, Mr. Reed, my personal side on this, I feel like we need to have an interview team. We need to interview all applicants, all qualified applicants, and that validates the position, whether Mr. Cade gets it or he doesn't. I think the counties do that. And I guess what I'm asking right now is if the board wants to go ahead and put a committee together to perform interviews, and maybe by next meeting, we can come up with names and maybe a 5 or 6 member interview team.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, is there any way maybe we can make a suggestion on the time limit, like on when we're going to stop taking applications? Maybe like the end of February?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, if there's no
I'm good with
real,
that.
we're not going to even approach the subject until the new fiscal year.
Yeah.
I don't know that next month is the time to do it, but.
Shields?
Barry, you'll have to come up to that microphone like they make me do, which is very good.
If we're not going to, if we've sent out letters saying that we're not going to do anything until the next fiscal year,
Right.
maybe we don't cut that deadline off until March or April,
I'm
It's
good with that.
not going to take a whole lot of time to interview, so.
I'm okay to run the whole course. I just wanted to have an update and kind of see where we are, who we have, and just kind of keep it up front.
I know you said we had 6 applicants. How many of them qualified?
3.
All right, that's just an update. And anybody else have any discussion? I'm gonna move on. New business. Discussion and approval of bid package for Phase 1A of the Rec Master Plan. Mike Norris, McGill Associates, is, anybody, Seth Adams is here, I see him, Seth. And I guess, would you guys come on up? And so we had a Parks and Rec meeting today. Mr. Sherrill and I attended, had a little preview of, I guess, what you're going to show us tonight. So,
Seth, it's minimized.
It's on the top row, or, yeah.
John, am I hitting the right button? I can't see it. Am I hitting the right button? Is there? I had to get you the last time to help me. There it is.
I think it's pretty good. Mr. Chairman, Board, I'm Mike Norris with McGill. And what I wanted to do, there's probably going to be a few questions, clarifications with regard to the proposed plans. This is a consideration for advertisement for bids for the proposed what we call racket courts, pickleball, and tennis courts. Those documents have been vetted, permitted, and you're at the stage now whether you want to go forward and move forward with advertisement for competitive bids, construction bids, or pause, and there may be some thoughts and ideas and questions. We had as Mr. Chairman mentioned, we had a Recreation Advisory Board meeting this morning. There were some comments. And, one of the things that came up was we went through and prepared a master plan a couple years ago. And the master plan had a different depiction of that. And I don't know if we wanted to talk in detail about that, but.
Do you have that? Do you have those images?
I don't know if they were set. Do you have the original image? I have a copy if you want to pass it around, but I don't.
I'd like to see one.
So,
Seth, you didn't
Would you-
bring the actual,
The big one.
the big one.
I don't know if you would want to pass this around or not, but I'll start over here.
Yeah.
So, we kept the scope of work, the 9 pickleball courts and the 6 tennis courts as part of the original plan. But one of the things you'll notice is we've had to make some changes with regard to the location of the restroom, that's not a restroom, changing room, and shelter area there in the middle as it passes around. I've actually got another copy I'll pass around this way. From the depiction you see on the screen. So when you're preparing the master plan, you're trying to shape the vision of what this will look like based on the information you have at the time, which is aerial photography and GIS. And then as you move forward with the next phase in preparing construction documents, you get much more detailed information with site topography, existing structures. And in this case, the hydraulics can make a pretty big impact on how the site can be developed with regard to permitting. And one of the things that as we started into the design of this, did the hydraulic analysis, that you'll notice the pedestrian bridge, which goes from the existing recreation center to the courts. That was one of the critical components. And so we ran a lot of the hydraulic modeling for that. What we realized with the building situated as it was originally proposed, it's going to be, has to be elevated for flood protection. So you're elevating that finished floor about 5 feet above the existing grade or proposed grade in this case. And what that does, that affects the permitting with regard to the bridge. So in effect, you couldn't achieve the no-rise for the bridge by having that building located where it was proposed on the original concept plan. We had to shift the building further back away from the river and towards higher ground in order to achieve that no-rise. Furthermore, you said, well, what if we wanted to keep the building there and go through the Lomer-Clomer process, which is another higher level of permitting? Even at that, we found that we were still encroaching on adjacent property owners through the modeling for that bridge. So the bridge affected a lot of the location for that shifting in the restroom building. Now, it as you can see from the original plan to the proposed plan, it's a lot more connected than it was. And based on the comments this morning from the advisory board, we thought, how can we soften this with some separation? And what we're thinking is, how can we integrate some landscaping in between the pickleball and the tennis, some small vegetation, smaller trees to kind of buffer that and create some separation there. So that's one of the things we talked about in order to soften that. The parking area to the right is the existing parking lot. As part of this phase, we haven't proposed any improvements as in this scope of work. So I'm kind of offering a general overview to see if there's any questions before we need to, if you have any deeper questions regarding the timelines and scope of work.
Parking spaces, how many do you have?
We're proposing the parking at the top is 4 handicap parking spots at the top. And then the existing parking lot is what we have down below.
So what's shown on the image there,
Yes, sir.
that has less parking than what was on the original concept, right?
Yeah, there's probably a few less spaces here.
And you guys eliminated the picnic area?
Well, the picnic area is actually combined within the restroom and changing rooms. Now, this building is going to be elevated approximately 5 feet. It's still going to be elevated above the tennis courts due to the floodplain elevation. But you're going to have a shelter on the front that's kind of look over the courts. So if there is an advantage of shifting that, you're going to have a nice view, a clear view of the courts and over to the river. So it's from a spectator standpoint, we feel like there is an advantage with that versus the proximity of having it in the middle.
And I think it's important for you to, the discussion that we had this morning, on this site,
Yes, sir.
you guys have pretty much done what you can based on
We've
this site, so-
about maximized, you can't say every square foot, but from a permitting and modeling standpoint, it's just a challenge working with that river and the flows that come through there. You know, if we think about the flooding back a few months ago, I mean, you can never anticipate the force of water. And you're probably actually going to have a little bit less potential. These courts will flood, as they have always in this area. So trying to mitigate as much as we can and still follow the permitting. But, we can, the parking, when you decide to move forward with the parking area improvements, it will expand a little bit closer to the proposed pickleball courts here on the right there. So we're trying to, since this wasn't part of the phase, we didn't want to show it to you and then you realize, well, why isn't this here? That's just going to be a separate phase. And you may choose to, one of the things I failed to mention is the bridge is not part of this construction package right now. It's in the finalization of engineering design. So it'd be as a separate package. It's probably a good thing, is probably a different type of specialty for another contractor there. And you do have the ability to combine, if you choose to add parking sooner than later, to combine that potentially with the bidding of the bridge. If you want to move forward with that. So I've talked enough. Any other questions?
Bridge, is that rounds?
Yes, sir.
And the purpose of that bridge is, we thought that when schools were there to play tennis, they could park in that parking lot there, walk across the bridge to the tennis courts and save the parking, and it would be easier access for the buses and whatever.
You'll have to forgive me, I'm new to the board here, but, so can you explain a little bit more about the bridge and why that eliminates this from the center?
Okay. That's a great question. The bridge has to be elevated to basically prevent flooding against that bridge. So as you elevate that, you're bringing in fill material to build up the abutments on both sides of that bridge. You try your best to eliminate the amount of fill as you can, but it just necessitates, in order to perch that up, you have to have fill material. By doing that, you're affecting the flow of the river as it's coming down. So when you run the modeling, for the hydraulic model of the river, you have an existing condition, and you model that, then you model the proposed condition. And so there are some existing structures at the park and currently, and so that's a pre-existing condition. So part of that modeling is evaluating with grading and site development. When you add the bridge, and you have to model that corridor, if you will, and the building as it sits there from the master plan, it's more of an impact from the flood modeling in the post condition. So creating that rise. By pushing this back, we're able to achieve the no rise, which means you're not effectively changing the floodway elevations, floodplain elevation rather. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
When you cross the bridge there, what kind of structure do you have supporting the bridge?
You'll have concrete abutments.
Abutments there?
Yes, sir.
As far as the courts, what's the lifespan of those courts?
Well, the courts will.
Prone area. I mean,
They're all found often in floodplain areas. That's not to say they're not going to get damaged. The recent floods, we've had some courts, in those areas, your fencing's going to come down. Courts are still there in a lot of cases, not always, but I've been to several parks recently that had that flood damage, and the surfacing's still there, but the fencing has to be replaced. So that's when you're in that, no different than a baseball field or anything else. The fencing can't withhold some of those floodwaters.
Aesthetically, it looks really different. I mean, what the original one looks obviously a lot better. Is there any way to come close to that?
Well, we're fitting a lot into that area. I get that, and you have that, a compact area to break that up. What I wanted to suggest is evaluating. You see the walkway separating the courts, that's about 10 feet wide. And what if we considered widening that even more to have an alley of some smaller flowering trees, like a crepe myrtle or something, to break that up, just so you could create some shade, some seating in there, and create more of a plaza effect versus just that pedestrian connector. That's one idea we had. We're still evaluating some different things, but the landscaping can definitely break that up and make it more eye appealing, as well as just having that visual buffer there. So that's one idea we have. We're open to some suggestions you may have, and but the other area around the proposed restroom building is maybe changing some of the aesthetics of the sidewalks to give it more of a park-esque. If we could add some curves or plaza area there, I think that would be appealing. Even if you
you had a patio, if you will, that extends beyond the shelter where you could put tables out there. That might be something there. But I think landscaping does a lot to a park when you can add that. Obviously, you don't want to have the type of trees where it's going to create pushing and upheaving of your asphalt. So you have to have that in consideration as well.
Would you point out where the proposed bleachers are, please?
So we have spectator bleachers in this location, and then we have them up here in this location.
A few things, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds. I let all my other thoughts out this morning. But I feel like if we're talking about phasing this bridge, right,
Yes,
this
sir.
is going to be our new high school facility right here.
Yes, sir.
You imagine driving a bus down that hill in that parking lot? It'd be just about impossible to make that turn. So you wouldn't be able to park along that whole side right there.
Right.
Along the pickleball courts. And then maybe you can get turned around, but to leave, there's very little parking in that parking lot. Then you had 2 buses, maybe more.
Right.
JV, varsity, boys and girls, I don't know, maybe you get by with 2 buses. But I feel like that's the first thing. In my mind, I was kind of hoping this was like a concept that we could tweak. I don't want this to stall. These poor people have been waiting years, as Ms. Bastel out, but I feel like I want them to be really, really, really good, and I want them to be really well thought out. Is this 5 feet? Is that 2 foot above base flood? Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you're kind of, it's a balance of, we're also trying to not have cost escalate. So you really, the more you raise the courts, in order to not have that vertical separation, it's adding cost to bring it in field. So it's a balance, I would guess.
Have you guys thought about that? I mean, in this original design, you have 2 different parking lots. You have the parking space here that looked like it was dedicated to the pickleball courts,
I do like that.
and the other parking space for the tennis courts. In this small parking area, to get a bus down there and everyone parking in that same area, I mean, have we considered like how congested, how crazy that's going to be, especially if you have meets there while people are playing pickleball?
As a chairman, or not the chairman, board member mentioned, if you were able to park the buses over at the rec center and have students utilize the bridge, I mean, the bridge is really close to being finalized for bidding in itself. So it's not like it's a year away. But as the concept with the future is, you have a convenient parking area there at the rec center where you could park and walk across the bridge. And it's easier access it is. So I don't know if that answers or addresses your comment there. We don't disagree about buses coming down there and the inconvenience of parking with big vehicles and the limited parking there. We felt like the parking at the existing recreation center would alleviate and offset some of that parking demand as well.
I'm just looking at the way this is set up in the original design here. It would have been cool if the public can see this. But the way it's set up in the original design, it's definitely well thought out.
I don't disagree. But it's just the matter of having, you're working off very basic information as you're doing this master plan. You use the best you can of the judgment based on what you have and make those, shape that vision there. Unfortunately, as you get into the detail of really, really accurate information, and now you're modeling, you have the information to model this creek and stream and rivers, you can be able to evaluate, okay, we like putting it there, but the realities are different now as you get that additional information. So that's kind of necessitated that shift.
And if I can say something, the parking lot that you're looking at on this is phase 1 or A and B. So right now, we only discuss phase 1 or A to keep the costs down. Looking at parking lots in the B section of that. So if you ignore basically the parking lot, because we can do that area is roughly the same size as, that's where it is. The parking area is going to be the same. It's just right now on this drawing, parking lot's not delineated.
We're not showing
It
the,
wasn't-
we're not showing any improvements to that existing parking area
Right.
there. So, and it's probably, I'll claim that one. I probably should have suggested that as a future phase and shown the diagram of the future parking improvements. And that might be a little more appealing to the eye, but just from
This is
the,
A and B combined, that, the little
I'm
shelter.
glad you
at
explained
the-
that. The
the
reason
little
I'm bringing,
shelter at the end.
the reason I'm bringing this up is because if this was presented to the public as the original concept, and that was the expectation, but then we give them that with their taxpaying dollars, that's gonna be a problem.
I would,
I'm just saying.
you try to design the park based, as best you can, based on the information you have. And then if, it's not uncommon to make adjustments, once you get the real accurate information. Unfortunately, with this, we felt like putting the building in that location, you wouldn't be able to build your bridge connector.
Seth, what
Sorry,
happened to the,
John?
what happened to softball field? What happened to the softball field?
What happened to it?
Yeah, I see what happened to it, but where did it go?
Well, we play most of our games out at Parker Meadows now. All leagues. We don't have, we have very, very, very few games. All the rec park is practices now. We'll have to improve some school fields to ease up some of the practice spaces. South Macon has 2 ball fields there. We will start utilizing that more. Maybe Union, maybe Cowee.
All right, man, you've seen it.
Let me just say one more thing, just like I said, as a new member to the board, I certainly would like for us to go maybe back to the drawing board and just see if we can get a little bit closer to what we presented to the public. Just maybe throw out some other ideas. I really like that idea of that being in the middle. I understand with the flood and all that stuff, but
Would you want to keep the bridge or not have?
I mean, I think we need to keep the bridge, but how many tennis courts do we have now?
6.
6? I mean, is there, I don't know. I just feel like that spectator area, I know there's some bleachers and things like that. I just feel like, if we've got a lot of people going and pickleball's the fastest growing sport, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people down there. So,
You know what else isn't on there is potential future expansion. I see the green space above the tennis courts right there. If pickleball is expanding, if you switched them, would that be potential 2 more courts or 4 more courts down the road?
We looked at a few options. Mr. Chairman, let us look and see if that, you're starting to go up the slope there and, now you're talking about terracing that. It's, I'm not saying no, but we can definitely look at that. The building's, I'm going to be honest with you, the building's going to be tough to move closer. We spent, and Seth can attest, we spent a lot of time modeling and remodeling and moving things around and shifting. When you have that building elevated 5 feet, you also have to provide ADA access. So now you have a ramp that's however long, that's going to be rising up out of there, that's also going to be affecting the flood modeling as well. So it seems easy just to shift it there and do it, but it's, from a permitting standpoint, it's quite more challenging. But we'll take another look at it and see what we come up with.
When we talk about moving it northeast there, have you talked with performing arts people? Next while you could move so far up, you start undermining, it's a pretty large building above that, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're not getting into the bank for that matter, if that's what you're asking.
I just wondered if you talk about the encroachment piece with the performing arts centerpiece. I don't know if there's just throwing something out there, just kind of knowing the vicinity where things are.
Right.
pretty close to where the concession stand is out there.
It is. That building basically is pretty close to where it is now. On the side of the.
And you can move forward with bidding, and you're not required to accept the bids, but if you want to see where you are from a budgetary standpoint, that's that's one thing you can look at. But if you would prefer to delay that, make necessary changes desired, then you can do that. And if you want to let the public have another look at it, then
I guess
we
I
work
would-
at the pleasure of the board.
I want to say this, I mean, for the public here, my wife and I travel a lot, and so everywhere we go now, I'm kind of looking to see, especially when we're in towns that are even smaller than ours. I think it'd be awesome if we get to a place in our county where, when we build things, let's give people nice stuff for the taxes that they're paying. You know, we spend enough years cutting corners and just kind of going bare minimum with everything. And I meant what I said. I mean, if we presented this to the public and we end up giving them that, I don't think that's right. You know, I think we're going right back to the same thought process of just barely getting by. So if there's a way for us to not have to like add a substantial amount of time and just redesign that to where we're closer to what this original design was, I think that's the route we should take, but that's just my personal opinion.
I worry about soliciting bids. Lori can vouch for me, but the more times you bid something, I feel like contractors lose interest.
Yeah, or it can go up.
Or it goes up, people don't care. So I feel like when we go to bid, I want to make sure we're close.
And I would agree with Danny on that as well. I mean, obviously, a lot of work's been put into it, and we appreciate all that, but, you know, I kind of feel like if we're going to do something, let's do it right the first time. Let's make sure it's what we've presented to the public, and we're going to get it done. It's going to be a nice facility, and that's what we promised them, so.
So I will go back to the question that I asked just a few minutes ago. Is it possible to have that concept on this piece of property?
In the modeling to achieve the permitting for the bridge, if you do the bridge, we haven't been able to achieve the no-rise. Furthermore, to go, we're still having a rise if you want to move forward with the Lummer-Clomer process because it's affecting the adjacent property owners.
So it's the floodway and the bridge is the hiccup for the whole project.
Exactly.
I mean, that makes a lot more sense. I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah.
So then, now we look at, I'm guessing you already have longer bridges getting into the floodplain instead of the floodway. And is it a pedestrian bridge or is it a vehicular bridge?
It's an 8-foot pedestrian bridge. The orientation, you really can't get vehicles down the ramp just because of that right angle turn. And the right angle turn there is just to not impede the flow of the water during the flood stage.
I mean, I'd have to agree with Mr. Breeden's point. If the parking lot, if we have 115 spaces and a bus loop and all the extra parking, I think if we had to pick it, lowers the need for a bridge. But if we had to keep that same small parking lot right there, the bridge is a have to. You know what I mean? It's a have to.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The bridge is, I mean, you could put the building, there's a lot more likely, you're a lot more likely because you don't have to, the modeling within a floodplain, when you're not working in the floodway, it's a lot less restrictive. So if you keep the building it's already in the floodplain, but the level of permitting isn't as stringent. But the bridge is the challenge on this one.
But I don't know that we're gaining space either way for the parking area.
Well, I think that's something that we need to.
The parking area
we need to know.
on that page is
Yeah, but this,
that gray area.
right. The gray area here is the existing
Yes.
parking lot. This is not the improved
No.
parking lot. And we're doing this sort of like two phases. We're trying to get the tennis courts, pickleball courts, the pavilion, all the ramps and stuff in this phase. And then probably after that, it's going to be a separate contractor with the parking lot. So the true parking lot is going to be more towards what you see on that concept, correct?
The existing is just the gray area. It's going to be expanded and improved to encroach closer to the pickleball area in order to make it more efficient.
And
When was
I've
that?
never-
When was the park built?
74 and 75.
When was the last time any upgrades were done like this?
We've done the pool twice.
So, I mean,
building,
to
nothing,
me, if we think about it,
major
it's
on
been
that.
almost 50 years since we built that park.
Yeah.
I think a couple more months of just trying to make sure that we hammer out the right plan, because it may be 50 more years before we do it again.
Sure.
So, I mean, we've gone 50 years without a bridge. It'd be super cool to have one.
Mike, thanks for being receptive.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate you.
But I do need a point of clarification, though. Do you want to eliminate the bridge? It allows a lot more flexibility of moving your building down closer.
Well, we've seen a plan with it. Can we see one without it?
Well, let me ask you this. This is probably going to sound bad, but is that not something we can do a year from now to, like, once we get CO with the park, can we not apply for the permit for the bridge and do that after the fact? If so desired? What I'm saying is we get what we want with this concept in the parking, and if we say we're really cramped and we really have to have the bridge, we come back and do the bridge.
My point of concern would be you cannot achieve the Lomer-Clomer because it would be affecting adjacent property owners. With that new modeling, having I think we can run it that way and see how it looks, but I feel like it would be difficult to achieve. I don't believe you'd be able to achieve a no-rise. And then when you move into the next stage of permitting with going through the Lomer-Clomer process, I'm not sure if you would be able to go with that just because of the effect on the property owners.
To move on, if you're asking me, if you're telling me you can get us this concept without a bridge, I would support that. I want the bridge, but if you're saying you can get us close to that,
We'll take a deeper look and see. We can quickly see what you're able to do by that shift.
You with that?
See, I always like the pickleball courts up next to the highway when you look down and you see, because the pickleball courts are always going to be folks
Busy.
out there playing. It's going to be busy. People on the highway is going to look and they're going to see that, and then we flip flop. That was my biggest drawback with this plan.
And keep in mind, we've got full-blown construction documents permitted, and now we're going to go back and do a lot of redesign. It may be prudent just to do some initial modeling, just to determine, yes, we can put that building there, and which just a point of caution there in moving all that. It's going to be a lot of redesign efforts.
Measure twice, cut once.
Yes, sir.
They still, back in the day, we parked the high school buses up there on the first level.
Up the pole.
And they walked on down to play on the ball field. Is that first level gone?
Right now, it is still there. But for future, this is a small portion of the whole master plan. And so some of that parking lot will be used by the pool facility if we do it there and everything else. So it's hard to count on parking buses there. The good thing is tennis, I've never saw a tennis team bring more than one bus. Tennis is usually a fairly small team. But coming into the park, finding directions to that side is kind of hard. That was the whole reason of having the bridge, is because that parking lot is right off 441. It's easy to see. You've got a good entrance and exit out of that. But I think that it is possible we could create maybe a parking spot for a bus. 'Cause buses take up a lot. Like whenever they park in the school parking lot, for middle school games and stuff, but before they do the JV game.
Yeah, I mean, I drive a bus to even park a bus in that lower parking lot below the pool. To have to take that right turn in a full bus, it's like almost impossible. You'd have to go down to the park and then come back to get to that parking lot. You can't make that turn.
Mike, do you have what you need from us?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Discussion regarding clock tower. Mr. Jack Morgan.
Several months ago, I asked to look at the clock tower, and the board directed me to come up with a scope of work to make it look as good as new, and I did. We put that out for bid. We got 3 bids. I think y'all have a copy of those bids and the scope of work as well. The 3 bids, one of them was really high. The low bidder, of course, is Carolina Builder Services here in Franklin. Their bid was $22,449.61. The alternate, there's a skylight right on top of that thing, and we don't know if it would survive re-roofing because it's flashed pretty heavily. So the alternate is if that skylight would have to be replaced, that's what it would cost. We don't know that, and we didn't want to replace it without it needing to be done. So what I'm asking is that we award that bid to Carolina Builder Services for the amount of $25,082.41. I would also ask, if you would please, 10% contingency in case there's something we just don't see.
What was that dollar amount?
So you're saying 25,000?
25,082.41 would be the total with the alternate one. And the contingency would be $2,600 on top of that. So you're looking at $27,682.41.
Okay. So Jack, you've answered one of my questions, what the alternate price was for.
Yes.
Also in here on item 17, it says project to be completed within 60 days, but there is 90 in parentheses.
It's a typo. It's 60 days.
It's a typo, 60 days. Okay. If you look at line 4, after cleaning all exterior wood surfaces, replace any and all damaged or decayed wood material with like materials, and like design, tighten any loose nails, screws, etc. 7 is basically going on the same thing. There's a lot of unknown, unforeseen stuff. So how do they give us, is this a guaranteed maximum price?
It is.
And also, if they don't have to do all this scope of work, is the price going to come down?
It's a hard bid, so that answer your last question to be no. We had a pre-bid meeting in which the contractors came and they were able to examine and explore that whole clock tower, so they knew what they were bidding for. There was nothing hidden. We opened it up, they could climb all the way to the top.
I mean, the price is good. I mean, I went over and put, in my mind, if I was bidding that job, and that's a good price.
It's reasonable.
And they're a local company, and it's an eyesore. It needs to be fixed. It has been for years, and
Is that in the form of a motion, Mr.
I make a
Sherrill?
motion that we accept the Carolina Builders bid of $22,449.61, plus including the $2,632.80 in the alternate price.
And at contingency.
Well, I was going,
482.
let's do that motion if you don't mind, end it
Okay.
there, and then we'll do one for a budget amendment for a whole dollar amount. Is that okay?
So do we need to do the contingency?
I'll add it in while you're talking, while y'all
Okay.
make the motion.
All right, so,
Mr. Sherrill, if I may add, that if the skylight doesn't need to be replaced, that won't be spent.
We won't spend it,
Yeah.
right?
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and a second by Mr. Breeden. Any further discussion?
When can they start?
They're ready.
Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your right arm and saying aye. Aye. No
Right.
opposed.
The next piece would be the budget amendment, because we don't have any money currently budgeted for this. We've got $362,200 in contingency. I would recommend taking it from there since this is a small project. So the numbers John read off was the base bid plus the alternate, which totaled $25,082.41. If you put 10% on top of that, you get $27,590.65. So my recommendation would just make it a 27,600 or 28,000, whichever you want to do. Just an even number for the budget amendment purposes. Y'all good with 27,600 from contingency? Just need a motion.
Recommendation,
We need a
yes.
motion.
I make a motion that we take $27,600 out of contingency fund. for
Motion by
this.
Commissioner Sherrill,
Second.
second by Commissioner Breeden. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right arm and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
5-0,
gentlemen.
Ms. Tammy.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, Jack.
While we're talking about the clock tower, can I talk about something that is relative to the clock tower? Sure. Hand you guys something out here. If you remember when the Garden Club came last spring, late winter, they were talking about some of the trees on the property. If you look beyond the first page, you'll see what some of those trees are doing to the sidewalks of the town. In my little code there at the bottom of the page, the CTs, the clock tower area, we've got, let's see, how many we got? If you look on the first page, there's that little red checks. X's indicate the trees that I would suggest replacing with something smaller. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the clock tower. Also, if you look at some more of the photographs, the ones marked RS is Rankin Square. They're also doing the same thing, which is county property as well. There's 2 trees there. They're marked with the X right across from the courthouse. Also, there's one in there marked CM. That's crepe myrtle trees, what you're looking at right there. Those things are huge. They're almost as tall as the trees. The garden club asked that they could be removed. I discussed it with the garden club. They would like those trees removed. They're working with the agricultural extension to find out what would be best to replace it with, that in 50 years we wouldn't have this same problem again.
Good deal.
Well, Jack, streetscapes are not intended to last 50 years. They have a life expectancy, and I'm surprised, even out up Iowa Street, all of these trees here are also doing the same thing. And that was one thing that Commissioner Higdon and I were meeting about was this whole, I mean, if you look across the street what the garden club takes care of, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And then you look back across the street, you look at the courthouse, and you look at this needs new life. And these trees, I'm surprised someone hadn't gotten hurt with the sidewalks and stuff being uplifted by the root structure on those trees. But they have outlived their life expectancy.
They have.
Mr. Sherrill, I actually had a conversation with Amy Owens with the town of Franklin. They are also in favor, obviously, of having those taken out. We think the timing's good now to get it done while we're doing the clock tower. Traffic's not as bad on Main Street. We're not necessarily in the tourist season. They're also going to coordinate with us, if you all are okay with that, coordinate with us to take the sidewalk up, get the roots out, and then they'll be there to help get the process started, put the sidewalk back. So it'll be kind of a joint project between us and them. So they're more than receptive to work with us on that.
Also, you can control the root growth of those trees from encroaching on the sidewalks. You have to dig a much larger pit, I'll call it, and stop the roots from wanting to come through that, back through that. Yes.
I think there's another issue that the garden club's gonna bring to your attention. The metal fence that goes down the street there going towards the gym and the old jail. There's some signs on that fence, and they would like to have those signs removed. They're ours. I've gone to the county, we've talked to the town about it, but those are signs that are on the garden center fence that's going down through there. They're publicizing, they're advertising signs. They want that looked at, but they hadn't already talked to them.
They've not. They've not discussed it.
We'll follow up with that and see if there's something that needs to be taken care of on the fence there while we're into this process.
Everybody good with that? Yep. I feel pretty good about the town reaching out. That's awful good of them. And I guess this board needs to be prepared for some money to replant some of these trees, right?
I'm
Has that
sure the
been?
garden club will come asking for funds for that.
All right, good deal. All right,
But I just need authorization to start on that project.
well, I feel like we just gave it to you. We just approved your money.
Okay, but
There it
the
is.
trees too?
Oh, trees? Yeah. Trees, y'all go with trees?
Yes.
Because you didn't ask me about that.
Well, I was getting ready to say we didn't approve funding
For
for.
sure, yes,
for-
I'm sure nobody's gonna remove them for free. You wanna remove them for free, Josh?
We've got somebody who's
We
volunteering.
have an
to do that.
option for that, yes.
It's quite a job and it's quite an undertaking, but they're in agreement to do it.
All right, moving on, Jack.
Let's go with it.
All right, we'll do it.
Thank you.
Hold on a minute.
All right, all right.
Macon County Early College.
Okay. Also, while we were looking at the library several months ago, and by the way, the library project has started on January the 6th on the porte-cochere there repair, if you want to go by there and take a look. Anyway, I was also asked to look at some of the damage at the Macon Early College. Hired an architectural firm, Peter Loper Architect, and he came up with a plan and a scope of work for that, and we're ready to put it out to bid. It's a pretty extensive scope of work. The corners, of course, we got to take those off and replace, make it look right. The downspouts and all the water's running under the building. We've got to do some grade work to get some positive drainage. The posts out front are set in the brick that are decayed, just like the ones at the library. We got to repair that. But that's ready to bid, so there's no ask yet, but that's just to let you know where we're at with that. But while we were out there looking around, the school asked if we'd take a look at something else. And what they would like to do is enclose that front porch area. The roof's already over it, but they don't have, the school resource officer is located over at Southwestern's building and not in Macon Early College building, our high school. They would like to move the SRO over in that building, but they don't have a place to put him. If they enclose the front, we can make 2 offices there and make it more secure, because you can just, if there's a kid at the front door, you can just walk in with them. They don't ask questions. So we need some security, which that shows. That's just an estimate of what it might look like. I asked the architectural firm that was doing the work on the Macon Early College if he would take a look at that, and he said, yeah. And he can come up with the plan for that. At his cost is $92.50, not to exceed. We already have a contract with him for the Macon Early College. He's already done that work. What I would like to do is authorize him to do that work, and when it comes time to bid it as an alternate to enclose the front. Bid the repairs, and as an alternate to enclose the front. You wouldn't be obligated to do that if you didn't like the way that the dollar amount looked. Because right now, we don't have a clue what it would cost. So what?
$9,200
$9,250, not to exceed.
to enclose and
That-
put 2 office spaces in?
That's the architect's,
Just
Okay.
a design fee,
Yeah,
yes.
Thank you, that's what.
that's
Oh,
the
the
design
design
and
fee.
construction documents.
And we felt like it
I'm
was.
sorry, I didn't.
I thought that was,
Sorry,
That's okay.
if you do it for $9,250, bill it.
We felt like it was prudent while we were into this process, before we got too deep into doing the repairs, at least consider it, because we felt like there was some legitimate concerns there. And that way we can at least, if you're okay, and if you want to postpone this till next month till you can look at it yourself, that's certainly okay too. But that way we can at least consider it all as one project, and then we don't come back a year from now and say, gosh, we wish we would have at least considered this or done it then. So we just wanted to put it out there for your consideration to think about that.
Mr. Chairman, I've been out to the college, and I've seen exactly what they're talking about with this. And this would actually give them more room inside, right?
Yeah, they got
Which they
153
need.
students there.
Yeah, they absolutely need.
Is he being good to us on these fees? I mean, is that his
It's-
regular rate, or is he?
It's reasonable. We had Tom Ritter before, and he did it for peanuts, but we don't have a Tom Ritter anymore. And this guy's in line with their basis fees.
I think anything we can do for security of the school People work there. We should do that extra mile, make sure.
I believe our children are our most valuable asset.
This was under the Board of Construction, so you're still going to
A lot of improvement around there that needs to be, I think, really good.
It does. Well, like I said, you just walk right in the door. If some kid's coming out, he'll hold the door for you.
I do want to remind the board, of course, obviously, we go through the budget process with the school system. We ask them what their needs are. We go through that. This is a little bit different circumstance because this is actually our building that we let them use for this. I also don't think if you follow this route, if early college were to ever move somewhere else, we're not causing any issues with us. Matter of fact, it would be probably more functional for us if we were to ever use that building for something else. So I don't think it will hinder us in any way in the future.
All right. We need action.
Yeah, you'll need a budget amendment. What was the amount again, Jack?
$9,250, not to
So-
exceed. He said if I can do it for less than that, he would.
So budget amendment for 9,250 from contingency.
9,250.
I'll make that motion, 9,250, you have a contingency?
Budget amendment,
We
yes,
have
sir.
a motion by Commissioner Shields. Second by Commissioner Breeden. Any further discussion?
Say thank you, Jack, for heading all this up, library and the early college.
Working on it.
Jack, real quick, does that alleviate any cost of what we have to do now?
The design.
Yeah, because we're doing all that.
Well, if we enclose this, it would of course change the other bid because those posts that we were going to we had to tear the brick down and replace. We might just build a wall there instead of do that.
Are we under contract with them for a certain amount of money to do that?
Yeah, for the Macon Early College, he's got the design documents ready for bid.
They haven't been bid, okay.
No, I just
perfect.
wanted to know if this might be possible at the
That's
same
perfect,
time.
okay. All right. All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ms. Tammy's 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, item D, new business. Discussion regarding update to rule number 11 of the Macon County Board of Commission.
Okay, so the board has the rules of procedure for the Board of Commissioners, and that's the general guideline that we follow for conducting the meetings. It has been suggested before from the public that the adjustments to an approval of the agenda should come before the public comment period so that the public has the opportunity to speak on those things if something comes up prior to the meeting where the agenda changes and they weren't aware that that was going to be an issue on there. So it's just a simple matter of switching 6 and 7 on the order of business of Rule 11 at the board's discretion on whether or not that is something that you would like to do.
Any questions?
Does that take a motion?
It does take a motion.
Malik makes a motion that public comment period go to number 7, and additions to agenda go to number 6 on the agenda list. In order.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Shields, second by Commissioner Antoine. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just out of great curiosity, that sheet is sitting back there, and you're to sign up before the meeting starts to speak in public comment session. By changing these two in that order, how is it going to improve or any type of comments by the public if they've already signed up to speak without that?
I mean, that's actually a good point. I guess, is there a time restraint to sign up, Mr. Attorney? What time is it closed?
I assume if you add anything to the agenda, then you could just make a concerted effort to ask if there's anybody that wants to speak on that
Okay,
subject.
I feel like that's a valid point, that probably, is there maybe I just need to call for anybody else to sign up to speak on the public hearing board before they're done with. But I just don't want that to go on forever. I feel like,
No, and I think it would just be when there's an adjustment
If there's an adjustment
If
to the
there's an
agenda.
adjustment to the agenda, we just need to be reminded to ask, does anybody want to speak on that specific issue that's been added to it?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
I'm too.
You guys good with that?
I'm
All right, so, did we have a motion and second on that? Motion and second.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right arm and say aye. Aye. No opposed, 5-0, Ms. Tammy. All right, moving on. Item E, scheduling of annual performance review for county manager and the county attorney. That's mine. This has been in discussion for a couple of years now. I think in professional America, it's a very common practice to have an annual review, and this board has 2 employees. And I wanted to bring it up for discussion that we have an annual review, preferably, in my opinion, towards the end of the year, first part of the new year. And I would like to have it in writing and on record for our 2 employees. And just wanted to bring that up for discussion.
Well, and that's also the school of government, when Barry goes down for that course, that is one of the things that they tell you, if you don't have one in place, there should be an evaluation for your county attorney and your county manager so we can all see, and then the county manager and the county attorney can try to better or address whatever the concerns
Well,
are.
and they can see criticisms in writing, and there's no question.
Right.
And that's helpful to everybody. Any other discussion? All right, what about a time frame? Is everybody okay with Ms. Tammy sometime around, the first of the year? I think we go ahead and maybe even sample one.
First budget year.
No, I think first of the year, January.
You would, yeah.
What do you think, Mr. Attorney?
I'd say now's a good time to do it.
You know, I know we have an interim manager.
In general, it's the slower time of the year as far as what's going on, and
It is.
possibly with the commissioners' schedules too, it might work better to do it, January, February, and just kind of make that an annual thing.
I think so. I think this would be a good pilot program. We go ahead and try one. We put it on the books. We implement it in record book and just kind of, like I said, right now it's low key, and we can just try one.
Let me ask one question for clarification. I heard you say writing. The one I just got, the one we did for BMPP is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 equals excellent, and 4, and you go through like that. There's not I'm not sure there's a place for comment. I think it's, you do a check, and that, if you say 5, then there's what that stands for. Are we going to get into writing things?
Your draft example that was in your packet has a rating scale on it, 1 to 3 on there, and then an additional place to write any comments. So yes, you would do a numerical value, and then if you have any comments, you would have the opportunity to write in your comments.
And I hear you saying if, so you'd have the choice not to write it. You could do check the box. You didn't want to write anything for comments, you just keep on going. Correct?
Sure. It's common practice to write in a comment that either justifies your score, or if it's a low score, to explain why it's low and what the employee might need to do to improve on that. But if you don't have any comments, you could just write none and keep moving along.
And I think it's a good time, and you can do it with us, and you can use these the first time. And then if there's changes you want to see on the form or other things that's not there, stuff you want to add, it'd be good timing for you to test it out on us and then go through and make changes as you need if you want to add or delete something off there later.
So I guess the next question is, when do we do this? And is this a closed session matter, face-to-face?
Yeah, and this is personnel files, so it would remain confidential, so it would be in closed session.
Okay.
In February, make sure.
Well,
You're all set.
I guess that's kind of what we can talk about now. If anybody has a preferred time, this might be a good meeting to have in the day.
I think you need to do it in February. So if there's anyone, we need to start this process. So if there's anyone that's going to land in this, one of the 2 people or both of the people, I know you will be somewhere in July or June or somewhere like that, we advertise again. Eric, I don't know when your time, when you're.
Well, and I think that could just be, I mean, as far as the course of it, I'd say just do it in January, February. I was originally hired under a 4-year contract, but again, that's at the pleasure of the board, so I can be terminated any time. And so that would have been in April of coming up on 4 years. So mine would be coming up soon as far as the county attorney contract. But as far as the process of doing this, I think it's good to do it, sooner rather than later. So that way, I think it helps both the board as well as the manager and the county attorney.
Josh, is it, with an interim county manager, isn't it premature to, when you don't have a full-time
Well,
manager? I get it, but I think, we have a new commissioner, we have an interim county manager, and,
well, Mr. Sherrill, I just wanted to put this on the agenda for
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah. No,
We've
I
talked
agree.
about this for about 4 years,
Uh-huh.
and it's almost like, at least we have a discussion. So if it's not desired by this board, we don't. But I feel like, with any employment, if there's any kind of friction or any kind of maybe just disagreements over time, when it's in writing and it's handled in a manner that all the criticisms are on the table, I think it's when it can be easily digested. I feel like it's healthy, and I just wanted to bring it up. That's really it.
Yeah.
I think it's never been implemented. So for having a pilot program, I can't think of a better time just to go through the process. As Mr. Shield questioned, is it a box to check? Do we write it? At least we go through it one time. When I hate to say it, but it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But when it does matter, the forms are already printed. We've already done it. And next year, just food for thought. And
I agree. We definitely need one because you have the county manager and the county attorney is at the will of this board. That can be terminated at any given time. So, and out of respect and everything for the county attorney, the county manager, they need to hear from this board as to
well,
what we feel.
You can give
that their
direction.
job. That's right.
And
That's right.
you can put it in writing. So, is it something this board wants to do? You want to wait? You want to?
I think it would be valuable. Your contract's coming up in April. Yours is effectively coming up in July. I think it would be wise of this board to go ahead and do that. And if there's any concern about me being a new commissioner, I've worked in corporate America, business, I know how to evaluate people, so I'll be okay.
Time frame? Anybody?
I think the format would be the first thing we'd have to, what you're going to use is there another one in town, or is there another one that we can look at, or,
So that should be one in your packet.
So the sample one that I gave you is a suggested one that we took and modified that is used in other locations. So we modified the wording on that. We do have the standard performance evaluation that we use with our employees, and then we have a separate one that we use for department heads and supervisors, that if you all wanted to see those, we could show you those, but the information that's on this is pretty standard. It would be included in those other forms that we have anyway. So this is the suggested and recommended questions and rating that we have, but I can seek out other examples if that's what you all want me to do.
What kind of time works for you?
Daytime.
Daytime?
Yeah, before 2 o'clock.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make a suggestion, you've got a couple options. If you want to do daytime, we could continue this meeting to another date and time, and then we'd go into closed session and do these. Or obviously, if you want to, if nighttime was an issue, we could do it in closed session at the February meeting. Either way, whichever suits you better.
Preference? If we push out 1 week, is that too soon? 21st January?
what was the deal on we had the Highlands meeting, February 13th? we were gonna have to move the second Tuesday meeting, or we're gonna move it tonight's February meeting, we're gonna move it to the 13th.
No, sir, we will still meet on February the 11th with the regular meeting, and then when we finish, we'll continue that meeting over to the 13th with the joint meeting. So you'll have 2 meetings that week.
So you're suggesting next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday, maybe 2 o'clock,
No, before 2.
before 2?
Yeah, I have to drive at 2.
Next Tuesday at 12 o'clock. That way we gotta be out of here by 2.
DC in time.
The-
Oh, wait a minute. No, I can't. I'm going to the inauguration.
Next Thursday, 23rd, 12 o'clock. Is that good? You guys want to continue this meeting? Okay. All right, thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? Do you, so I can prepare the forms for you all and any information that you need ahead of time, do you want to have the employee present while you all are doing the evaluation? Do you want me present? Who do you want present in that session?
Well, again, this is a pilot program, and Mr. Attorney, I'm willing to hear some precedents here, but I feel like we need to find commissioners in HR in that room at a bare minimum. And gentlemen, anybody else you want to have in there? I think the 5 of us in HR, and I think HR does that often.
Ms. Keyser, she did
Yeah.
one for the county manager thing, and it was very well done.
So if you can help kind of present, a format, an itinerary, maybe a light, I wouldn't say a light agenda, but just a light agenda to publish or something of that nature, and we'll continue this meeting.
Thank you.
Okay? That took a long time. Man, you guys are killing me. All right, consent agenda. Anybody? We have a motion.
Make a motion to,
I have a motion by Commissioner Breeden,
oh. I second it.
second by Commissioner Sherrill. Discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right arm and stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, Tammy. Appointments. We have
Consent
one, Macon
agenda.
County
Did y'all just approve consent?
Library Board of
Okay.
Trustees.
I missed the first part of that.
Yes, Macon County Library Board of Trustees, we have one seat right now that needs to be appointed tonight. Our county librarian, Ms. Hardison, has submitted a request to us for Ms. Linda Tyler to be reappointed. At this time, I'd just like to say thank you to Ms. Tyler for serving on the board. But I'd also like to move forward. I've had some requests, and I'd like to make a recommendation to this board that we appoint Ms. Debbie Franken for that seat.
How you spell last name?
Franken.
All right. Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes. So both.
I have a motion by Commissioner Antoine,
I'll second that motion.
second by Commissioner Sherrill. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right arm, stating aye. Aye. Keys are 5-0. All right, closed session, Mr. Attorney, Mr. Cave? Have none. At this time, I'd like to continue this meeting to the 23rd of January, 12 o'clock. Any motion?
I would like to make a motion that we continue this meeting to
Motion by Mr. Breeden,
12 o'clock.
second by Commissioner Antoine. All in favor, please signify by raising your right arm. Aye. These are 5-0. Thank you.